So welcome to the 2023 Outreachy introduction to the Palisados Foundation, Talawa, and all the various repositories that we have. We have a fairly tight agenda. I'm going to be talking about the introductions to the various websites that we have and what you can do to make your contributions even better. And then we're also going to have some time with Dominic Mills, who will be discussing the projects and some of the rationale behind what we have done. So to start, the Palisados Foundation was founded in 2016 with an aim to providing more equitable access to STEM education jobs on the island of Jamaica. I'm a Jamaican national. I lived in Jamaica until I started my family. And in the year 2000, I came to the United States. And one day I was working in a conference room at Google, and I was looking around and saying, why weren't there more people like me at the table? And I decided to start the Palisados Foundation with other members of the Jamaican community that lived in Silicon Valley. And so let me just invite these other people. Hang on a second. Takes a little time. Takes a little time. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Back to where we were. My screen sometimes takes a little time because when I'm recording, there's some delays. Right. And so we got started with a project called the Calico Challenge, which was with Jamaican students based on the island. And we got sponsorship from Jamaican-based companies to provide students with these internships in which we were providing software internships very similar to Outreachy for Jamaican projects with the use of mentors based in Jamaica to get things going. And that was really very successful. Religious organizations, but the clubs and anybody else that wanted to create some sort of a community. We took inspiration from a number of sources. The first was like LinkedIn and Instagram. We wanted to make sure that we had features that were very similar to that. And I'm going to get back into some of those details a little later. So this is the Palisados Foundation website. You can see that we have links to GSOC, some of the alumni for the projects that we've had. We can get work or can get access to some of the interviews that we've had with some of our sponsors. And we can, on our About page, you can get some more information there as well. We have a news page in which we have information related to the various types of activities that we're trying to achieve, and so therefore you can take a look at that as well. All right, so in the meantime, let's go and take a look. We have a slight delay, but in the meantime, I'm going to try and click on some of the important sites that we can take a look at. And so this is one of them. Hang on a moment, please. Let's just invite these people. One moment. Okay, let's go back. Sometimes my screen just gets so slow. Let me, okay, good. All right, so this is some of the more important pages that you should take a look at. Go to the Palisados Foundation website, and then you'll, on the GitHub pages, and then you'll see the various repositories that we have. One of them is Talawa, and we sort of talk about Talawa interchangeably with the various types of apps, but the most important Talawa app at the moment is Talawa itself, which is a mobile app based on Flutter. And we decided upon it because of the fact that Flutter is very, very flexible, and that is one of the guiding factors behind it. The Talawa mobile app, it interacts with API on the backend, and that provides data access to the information that the various users would want to use. And then from there, we have the Talawa admin repository, which works with the code TypeScript primarily for the presentation of various types of administrative functions. And so when you come to the website, the most important things that I would like you to take a look at is when you scroll down the screen, we have a README file. So this README file that you see here is the same content that you see down here. And from here, you will get information on how the various types of apps and repositories that we have. There'll be a link to the installation guide and the contributing.md file, etc. So I want to show you the most important files that you should be looking at. The first one is installation.md, which will come up in a second right here. Then there's information on contributing. I really recommend to you to follow the steps on installation.md in each of the repositories very carefully. Step by step, we have really tried to make sure that it is very intuitive, not so much intuitive, but very carefully written. So as much as possible, follow the steps and you will be in very good hands. So we also have the contributing.md file, which is an important one as well. It has links to the various types of resources that you can use and talks about some of the guidelines that we have in creating pull requests. And so we have a number of processes that I really would like you to be aware of. You can create an issue, but we do not automatically assign people to issues. And the reason for this is because we have had situations where multiple people are working on the same issue at the same time and issue pull requests for those issues. And the problem with that is that quite often we have multiple people working on the same projects in parallel, and it just creates chaos. So what we want to do is that you create an issue, the issue automatically gets marked unapproved, and then one of the mentors or contributors will come through and independently go through and do the assignments. Okay, let's go back. So we've spoken about the contributing.md file, the installation file, etc. We have some features that are really important that I'd like you to be aware of. If you click on the documentation.md link, it'll show you how to add new documentation to our website. So we have a site called docs.talawa.io. It is handled in Docusaurus, and the output of the Docusaurus pages gets put into the docs.talawa.io site, which is here. And you can click on the About page and get information about the repository. There's a bunch of information specific to the technical details of the project, which I encourage you to take a look at and work with. Okay, so please click on the About page. When you click on that, you have information about us. If you click down here, you will see information related to the various internships that we have. And then if you click a little further down, you'll get access to information about the ideas, etc. We are working on an Outreachy page, which I think will be very useful for many of you. So one of the things I'd like to point out next is that we have the Talawa links and this Talawa API link, which when you click on them, they link over to this page or some of these other pages that you see here. Now, these pages are automatically generated from Talawa API whenever we do a merged pull request. And so They extract comments from the source code, and then they are presented on these pages as well. So I know that many of you have been wanting to work on these sorts of the look and feel of these pages. It's really important to try to figure out how these pages are generated and how any modifications can be made accordingly. So that's really important for us to take into consideration. So the next thing that I would like to talk about is the code coverage reports. So if we go to one of the repository pages like here, if you scroll down, you will see a link right here for code coverage. And if you click on this, you will get information related to the degree of testing that we have on each of the repositories. And so let's just go to this page, and then you will see what I'm talking about. Here you can see they have a graphical representation of the various directories that are being covered on the code. And you can click through on any of these links to see which files have been great in terms of coverage of the various types of testing. Every pull request that you put in automatically gets tested for any sort of changes that could be breaking. They're not 100% foolproof, but we really, really try to make sure that the testing is done very, very well. So I want to scroll down a little bit on this page, and you can see that over time we have been gradually increasing our code coverage. And let me invite this other person one more time. Hold on. When we're working with people from all around the world, sometimes we have these little issues, so hold on a moment. For those of you, we are going to be recording this, and it will be put on YouTube very shortly. Okay, right, so let's go back to the code coverage page. Right. When we scroll down on this page a little bit, you will see that you can click through on the various libraries a page at a time and get to where you want to be, right? So here you'll see the various files, and you'll see the level of coverage of each file. And so if you click on one of these files, for example, let's just click on router.dart, you will see the actual source code. And the sections of code that have been covered will be in green. So let's just scroll down a moment here. And then the sections that are not covered, so here you can see the green, and the sections that are not covered will be in red. So you'll have a fairly good idea as to where and how to do the tests. Now, I want to show you how to get a more comprehensive view, because when you go through the various directory structures, it can be a little difficult to find things. So one of the ways that will be much faster is if you click on the file list view like this. And then what you'll see are the listings of all the files in the repository and their relative amounts of coverage. Now, one of the things that we do to try and figure out which would be the next most important file for us to add to an issue for coverage is that we sort by the coverage levels. And here you can see that these are the ones that have the best coverage, and then if you sort again, you'll see that these are the ones that have the least coverage. And we just go through and we create issues for these various files, and then we get people to work on them. And this has been a very successful strategy for us over the years. If you are not familiar with testing code, I strongly recommend that you understand the process. We do not accept anything that has coverage levels that are below a certain minimum. And that minimum is not just for the repository overall, but also for the repository files that you have submitted in the pull request. So that's really, really really important. I cannot express how important that is. So let's go back to the homepage of one of these repositories. The Talawa README file has a link to how to join the community. And if you click on this, you'll go there. This is the only link that we have for Slack. In order for you to join Slack or to create these links, Slack only has the links active for 30 days. And so this single link, when a new issue has been created, and therefore have a better understanding of what is needed. So let's just take a look at things here. You'll be able to take a look and see right here that I get lots and lots and lots of Slack messages. I go through hundreds of emails a day to handle the types of outreach that we're working with, and it takes a lot of time. I really recommend to you to go to the various Slack channels to ask for questions, to read upon the documentation, to get the type of access that you want, because if not, I cannot be the sole source of information. You can @ me, but there may not be a response. And the reason for that is that I try to look at Slack only twice a day. I look at it in the morning, I look at it in the afternoon. I generally tend to be focusing on getting mentors to do the reviews of the various types of pull requests that we have, and that is my main priority at the moment. Right, so Slack doesn't seem to be working so well for us today, but I just wanted to let you be aware of that information. All right, so let's just go back to Talawa docs and what is important. So all these repository links are important, or the Talawa docs links are very important, but I want you to take a look at the ideas list and just go through this for inspiration. These are not necessarily the only ideas, so that doesn't seem to be working so well right now, but let's just go to the ideas list page once again so that we can get some more information. All right, so as we scroll down on this page, you will see definitions that I think would be interesting. We have some primary areas, we have secondary areas, and in some cases, we have links to important, here we go. Here's the link to the functionality review of Talawa admin. It shows you what works, what doesn't work, and why we created some of the issues that you see in the GitHub repositories. Here's a link to the Talawa mobile app, and there's some information there that you can take a look at. Each of these general ideas for projects has a link to potential mentors for each of those projects, and this is really important when you are trying to get further information. All right, let's continue. So we have these ideas. These don't necessarily need to be the only ideas that you work on. One of the things that we strongly recommend is that you go and visit the links on this page, because there are links to websites with demos. If you look on the various Slack channels, I have posted videos and links to sites that can provide inspiration for you and your ideas. I also recommend that you talk to leaders in your community, leaders of temples, mosques, synagogues, etc., to find out what they would really like in some sort of an app. So go to we have some demo sites that are here as well. Go to those demo sites and sign up with an account and take a look at the features that they have and use those as inspiration. Talk to the various leaders of your communities. Ask them what are the real pain points of them being able to manage the interactions between them and their community. One moment, I'm going to invite one more person. Yeah, so invite people and take a look at what we are trying to achieve. And this is really, really important. That will give you an advantage. It will provide you with inspiration. Do not assume. Go and take a look at the videos that we have. Go and take a look at the demos. Make sure you understand what a church management system is about. Find out how they handle volunteers, how they find people, how they deal with events, how they handle things like donations and those sorts of things. How do they handle the reservations of rooms, etc. Talk to the leaders of your community and ask them those questions, okay? And those will provide you with answers. If you don't do the research, you will not stand out. Everybody makes assumptions about what this app can do, and if you make assumptions, you may be wasting your time. Take the time to take a look at these things. All right, so we have a general template that we ask that you use. I'm not sure with Outreachy whether there's a template feature, but if you go to this and just use this as a guide and as an inspiration. Right. We've given some amount of guidance as to what you can write about in your proposal. The who's going to be using it, the when they're going to be using it, the where, the why, right? What are you going to be doing is very important. How you're going to be doing it is another important factor. And it's all here, okay? There's no need to say to the community, what do I need to do? It's here, okay? One more time, I'm going to go back and get a person. They are not there anymore. I don't see them. One moment. Okay, coming back. Let's talk about selection criteria. They are here as well. And some of the things that we use for the selection criteria are things like how many pull requests have you merged? What are the quality of the pull requests? If you think that the total number of pull requests is going to be a factor, not so much. We have had people that have done maybe 2 or 3 pull requests, but have very thorough descriptions of what they're going to do. And in some cases, they even provide links to their own personal repositories of what they're going to do in terms of like pseudocode, etc. So just having the pull request is not necessarily going to be good enough. And so it's a question of making sure that you're doing the work, that you're interacting with the community, that the mentors that are listed on the ideas page are spoken to on a frequent basis. And that's going to be really, really important. Low quality issues are things that we also take into account. If somebody's just constantly giving us issues like making changes to things like a font size or those sorts of things on every single page, and every single one of those is a separate individual issue, that's not a good use of our time. And so we start noticing trends of those nature, and then we start saying, this person has been based on this sort of behavior, we don't feel that they will be making a valuable contribution in the long run for us. And so we generally tend to ignore lower quality issues. Once again, it's not a question of quantity, it's a question of quality. And another thing that we look at is the behavior and attitude. We spend a lot of time trying to be inclusive. We have people from a wide range of backgrounds across the globe, in which attitudes to various different types of cultures and expressions, etc. You never know how people will interpret what's going on. So we really, really, really try to be professional. From time to time, I tell people that they are not acting in a very nice way.
Hi guys. Hi guys, I'm Dominic. I'm a prospective mentor for Outreachy. I'm just gonna go over the structure of the task, which is more or less an extension of what Peter was just talking about a while ago. So I'm going to share my screen and just go through the Outreachy task, the Outreachy proposal structure. So Talawa is expecting funding for two proposals. One is I'm sure many of you know this already, but one is called implementing and refining old features of the Talawa, implementing new and refining old features of the Talawa admin portal. And the other one is called improving the UX and UI on the Talawa documentation website. So let's just tackle the first one. These are the necessary skills that you'd have. So obviously you need to know version control, how to interface with Git and GitHub. Front-end web development is preferred, and some back-end web development is nice to have, but not necessarily required for this project. These are the system requirements you'll need, and this is the project description. So as Peter said, Talawa was created in order to help community-based organizations collaborate with their membership. And it has three components. The mobile application called Talawa, a web-based portal and called Talawa Admin, and an API that provides access to the data and features. So the purpose of this proposal is to focus specifically on the Talawa admin, because there are a number of things that need to be kind of redefined and fixed and so on and so forth. And there are a few tasks that we had in mind, but I realize now after the influx of participants during the past week that some of these tasks should be redefined, and that's what I kind of want to talk about during this section. So the intern tasks here are rather simple, and these are more or less just to kind of separate people who don't really have a good, we don't really expect you to be like a pro in front-end development or a pro developer or anything, but we need to see the potential that's there in order for you to kind of manage the workload that's going to happen during the 3-month Outreachy period. And I initially had these beginner tasks in place just to ensure that we can separate the people we see who have an enormous amount of potential, even if they don't necessarily have the skills in place right now, versus the people who I'm not really sure could manage the workload within the 3-month period. And the beginner tasks I've realized are kind of just too simple for many people. So, create an empty repository on GitHub and redo the React.js tutorials and kind of, create some simple features. And as such, I wanted to notify that they will be changed within the day. So there will be new beginner tasks, and I'll update the Slack channel with that. Because what happens here is that this is what proliferates a lot of the trivial pull requests on GitHub, right? That Peter had mentioned, and the intermediate tasks, as you can see, are the ones that are on the, these are the issues, the current issues on the Talawa GitHub repository. So as you can see, that there's an unapproved tag, meaning that a mentor has to look at these tags here and see if this pull request, see if this issue is, in line with what we want to have for the applications, the respective application. And more or less, these are tasks that won't really take aren't tasks that you can do as quickly as the beginner level tasks. And more tasks can be found here, as I don't think many people saw the Google Docs link. But as is, Outreachy didn't allow me a large enough word count in order to create as detailed tasks as I wanted to. So many of these tasks, such as creating a separate branch and making modifications for at least 4 HTML elements, these type of tasks will be eliminated today, and they will be replaced with more, not necessarily challenging, but more relevant tasks relative to the skill set that many people, what we've seen so far with many Outreachy participants. And the intermediate tasks will also get revamped because there are a lot of participants between Outreachy and GSOC who have kind of looked on both of these. So there'll be more general tasks for people who are just joining the Slack channel and who are just being introduced to the Palisados Foundation. And the idea is because we get Outreachy participants literally every day joining the Slack channel, that we will add more tasks. We will add more tasks as the time goes by. So one thing right now that we're focusing on is decoupling certain things with the Talawa application. So for instance, in Talawa admin, you have this captcha and you need to connect to the API in order to access the site, right? We want to create applications that are more loosely coupled in the sense that you don't necessarily need to interface with the API or the respective parts of the API, such as the Mongo DB URL string and the GraphQL URL in order to access the app. And this is useful to do because it makes it easier for people who want to just develop certain features in the app to not have to download certain packages and so on and so forth in order to just get into the meat of the matter. And the reason why this is useful is because, one, not many people, Outreachy doesn't require a high-end machine in order for you to, become productive. And a lot of these things are kind of excessive. We're realizing now when we have a huge influx of participants for the various repositories. So Talawa admin, Talawa API, they're all extremely tightly coupled with one another. And they can be, more independent with the option of including those various constituent parts. And the other, that was just the Talawa admin project. But apart from that, we also have another project, the UX and UI and the Talawa docs documentation website. So as Peter had just mentioned a while ago, the documentation website docs that it has the generated documentation pages as well. But you notice that the CSS styling here doesn't really match the CSS styling here and here. And that's because these are auto-generated pages. So in order for you to kind of work with these pages, you're going to have to create something like a parser that would kind of style the page after it's generated, and then somewhere within the pipeline where it gets reformatted before it gets sent to the Talawa docs repo. But apart from that, even if you go on like the about page, there are many things here that could probably use some fixing up. And so, I mean, you have a lot of, this is one project where you have a fair amount of creativity in order, and freedom, not creativity, but freedom in order to define the features you want to create. But we're also, as Peter said, open to ideas as well. So you can also just email a mentor, post something on Slack, or so on and so forth, and we'll review your idea. You could even just create an issue on GitHub. That's probably the most straightforward route, to just create an issue on GitHub, fleshing out the idea that you'd have for the Talawa project. And I believe that this is, I don't really have much more to say on this. So any questions?
Okay, before we get on to questions, I want to talk about something that many of you, that has struck me since we have started working on the projects. The first one is, well, there's really only one, is that we have the ability to handle multiple different types of languages on the various types of apps. And you, as a community, come from many different countries around the world. And it would be great for you to do some sort of research into how we handle languages and how we can possibly create a means of doing language packs for Talawa that will make Talawa more accessible to people and communities around the world. Now, We are working on an issue which should be up very shortly about figuring out ways in which language packs could automatically be included. But in the meantime, it may be good for you to start thinking about how it's done, B, starting to do possibly some of the translations, and C, justifying why your particular language would be important for Talawa for us to maintain it in the repositories or wherever they may be. And possibly that might mean that we have a separate language packs repository that people can download, for example, to get the additional updates. So that may be something that we could consider. But don't just go in and rush to do it just yet. We're working on the issues related to it. Okay, any other questions that you may have? Let's just go to the chat on the side. Hold on. Let's just, my system is slow, so I can't really see. Dominic, can you see any of these comments just yet?
Yeah, there's just one from Ikine. He's asking if we can drop questions here. He just asked, are the internship tasks part of the contribution phase tasks? And I believe the internship tasks are the contribution phase tasks. Well, I mean, it depends. Like, what do you mean by contribution phase? Do you mean because we only have space for 2 participants so far. So are you asking if they're the same tasks or if they're going to be related? Because to answer the first question, no, they're not going to be the same as the contribution phase tasks. But you need to do the internship tasks in order to do the contribution phase tasks. So one is dependent on the other. No, they're not going to be the tasks that the chosen intern will have to do, but they'll build upon the tasks that you have done during the internship phase. So we essentially use the internship period to see how well you can adapt to the various features of the Talawa app. And after that, we give you some more, I guess, use a slightly more challenging tasks. And those tasks are tasks that are spread over like a 3-month period. So you have more time to think about it and, test things out and break things and ultimately build things. So yes, this video will be available for viewing later, Gifty. It will be available on Palisado's YouTube channel. Yogita had asked, the same question as Enike had asked.
Dominic, before you continue, could you repeat the questions before answering them so that on YouTube people will be able to see, because sometimes the lettering is so small they don't understand what's going on.
Okay. Enike had asked, are the internship tasks a part of the contribution phase tasks? And the answer to that is yes, the internship tasks are part of the contribution phase tasks, but the contribution phase tasks are not the internship tasks. They simply build upon the internship tasks. Yogita had asked, are the internship tasks mentioned in the outreach page that we're supposed to work on during the contribution period? Well, the question is similar to Enike's question. So, as I just said a while ago, they build upon the internship tasks. And Gifty has asked if this video will be available for viewing later, and I said yes. And Kayan there, Rata had asked, yes, you can do the internship class. Just to clarify, these internship tasks are okay to do at this phase, and the answer to that is yes, they're okay to do at this phase. Abata has asked, according to my research, I learned that the internship tasks are to give you an overview of what to expect in a project after you've been accepted. Are we meant to do the internship tasks in the contribution phase? No. Generally, there may be 1 or 2 internship tasks that are left over at the start of the contribution phase, but those tasks are not the same tasks you would be doing during the contribution phase. You essentially have to work on a specific idea for the contribution phase, and that would involve a number of issues being built out and a number of different pull requests you would have to have made during that 3-month period during the contribution phase. And Chin Wendu has asked, after attempting the internship task, can we go ahead and record them as our contributions? Yes, you definitely need to do that. You need, if you've made a pull request that's merged or created an issue that's eventually turned into a pull request, you need to record those things and you need to add them to your application so we can track exactly what you've done and see the quantifiable results that you've gotten. And Enike has also asked, documentation, the project idea documents are meant for interns when submitting the final application, right? Are the idea documents used as a template to write your ideas? Yes, the idea documents are used as a template to create your own ideas, but you can also use the ideas list on the Talawa docs page. The Talawa docs page ideas are more or less the tasks that you would kind of be expected to do during the contribution phase. So those are the type of form, the formats of those are more or less the type of work that you'd be doing during that phase. I think you're mistaken for the contribution phase for the internship phase. We're currently into contribution phase according to Outreachy. So are the internship tasks meant for this phase before you finally choose an intern? Can you just clarify what you mean by internship phase and contribution phase? You can turn on your microphone if that's quicker than typing. Like, or anyone else who's knows the difference between internship phase and contribution phase, because Enike has just said we're in the contribution phase. So the phase before this, Talawa has no visibility on. That would have been 100% Outreachy, determining the relevant persons to be made to have made it to this phase. So if there was a phase before this where you had to submit code or something, that's not related to what you're currently doing now. And if now is the contribution.
The answers you've given so far, I don't know, I think you're kind of mistaking the internship phase for the contribution phase. Because according to the Outreachy calendar, presently, those whose initial application has been reviewed and approved, they are currently in the contribution phase. And so after this phase, which will run for a couple of, I think 4 weeks, after this phase, then the selected interns then move into the internship phase. So that is why we are asking if the tasks described as internship tasks, if we are expected to do them for this contribution phase. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Is Chen Wendu, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware of the naming, but essentially what I said still goes. So we do have a set of tasks, and the tasks that you will be doing, as expressed in the commits, issues, pull requests, those will be the contribution phase tasks in which we will use to, rank the respective candidates for the next phase. And the tasks that you do will be relevant for the next phase for those who do get selected. So as I said earlier on, the tasks that we have, some of the tasks that are already there will be removed and new ones will be added today, because some of them are a bit trivial, and we've realized just based on the responses so far that people are more capable, or have at least gotten more capable in the time between joining the Slack channel and actually putting in the work. Enike. Ekine. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So, I think there has been some misinterpretation of the document because most of the tasks which you just described here that interns are supposed to do, we thought it was like when the accepted intern that was supposed to do them. So what you're saying right now is that maybe we should like redirect our focus from creating so many multiple issues, because I feel the reason there was a stampede in creating GitHub issues was because of everybody trying to like do get a PR merged. So what you're saying now is that after you've revamped the internship tax that we have currently, that what's the intents of potential accepted intents are going to do is to go to that page and probably choose one or two of that issue that you probably list out and work on them. That is like what part of the criteria of getting accepted. So is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. But these tasks you won't be able to do them as quickly as the ones you've been doing so far. You're gonna have to maybe take a few days to think about it and create some code and to create a pull request for it.
Okay, so sorry, the next question is, so we have, let's say, this tax, different intent choose same tax, right? So what would be the criteria for like merging a particular pull request from like the same, maybe from this referencing the same issue? What would be the
code coverage? Those things are also like objective assessments to see how well the feature that you've produced has worked with the code base. So the higher the code coverage, and that's just one aspect, but also you have to take into consideration how well you've accomplished the task that we've set forth. And we can choose to measure that in different ways, but those ways will be highlighted to you. You will be aware of the various heuristics we'll use when the document is updated. So nobody's going in blind. Nobody's just going to we're not second guessing anyone. There are a set of criteria we're going to use, and everyone will be aware of those criteria.
So another proposition I have is, so we are obviously going to revamp the tax. I was hoping, or I had in mind to actually suggest that if there should be a document open, so some sort of Google Doc, that interns could come and like write something they feel should be on the site, a tax they feel like this site lacks. This is not like, this is just like giving you some wide ideas, like, okay, this actually makes sense to be put on this contribution on the internship tax, right? So because I feel a lot of people come here with a lot of ideas and which are really top notch, and I feel you inspecting it from those docs could actually help you streamline issues that people see that would make perfect sense to be on that new revamped internship tax. This is just my opinion, though, like to be discarded as well, but it was just what I thought earlier today.
Yeah, so this is not a bad idea, but the problem with this is that there are just too many people in Outreachy, and your idea works really well if we have a smaller sample size. But when there's so many variables to account for, and like maybe one Google Doc, it creates chaos almost immediately, and people are constantly editing it and changing other people's words, and it becomes unproductive in the long run to do this type of thing.
That's cool. That's fine.
Okay, so if you have a question, I know that we have people putting up their hands. If you can just type in the chat, that would be really useful for us as well. I think that helps.
Yeah, there's some more. So Karen Data said, I see design internship tasks that are not on the issues page. How do you go about doing this? So as I mentioned, you can do one or three things. You can either just talk to your mentor or a mentor on Slack and mention the task that you have in mind. And you could also just create a issue on GitHub and someone will see that and look on it. Or you could just go ahead with What do you mean by design internship tasks that are not on the issues page? Are you referring to the ideas page?
Not really. There were before I came, I didn't understand between the contribution phase and the internship tasks. So I thought that the internship tasks were open, but after this conversation, I have been made to understand that we can only do tasks in the contribution phase. So to be completely honest, I came as a UI UX designer. So the tasks that are in the internship phase are tasks I'm completely sure I can handle. And in the contribution phase, I don't see tasks that are design related. I don't know how to go about that.
No, okay. All right. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. The tasks that you're referring to, those tasks are specifically were made with the Google Summer of Code participants initially. What will happen for Outreachy is that the tasks will evolve with the work that you're doing now, such that whatever skill set you bring to the table, that will create the task for the internship phase. So the ones for GSOC are not out of your, if it's not out of your reach, you can do one of those. But if you bring UX UI skills to the table and we approve your project, we are open to creating a new task that fits your specific skill set based on the contributions that you've done during this period.
So Dominic, we need to update the documentation to let people be aware of that, because if it's implied, then it's not really helping everybody. So we need to be very, very clear.
Yeah. So is everyone clear on that now? Just the tasks that are there are not the complete set of tasks that are available. They evolve over time.
So I would think that people may want to ask the question, can they create their own issues and tasks that could be considered as a part of it, a part of the evaluation process? Are you there?
And the answer to that is a conditional yes. The task just has to meet the rigors of the internship phase period. It has to be fully fleshed out, fully detailed, and there has to be a clear indication of what needs to be done during that period to meet the 3-month timeline. Okay, so there are some more questions. Will these tasks / issues be assigned on first come, first serve as well? No, people can, as Akini had said, there probably will be multiple people working on similar tasks, and we'll have to differentiate them based on some criteria which we'll reveal today. So it's not first come, first serve. You just doing a task doesn't really guarantee that you'll have an edge over someone else who has done it a bit later. And Tai has said, if you have a suggestion or idea, I think you can share with the mentors. Oh, that's not the question. Nasiru had said, hi, initially I wrote a test to include the changes I made in the code base, and that gave me 100% coverage on the login page, types.tsx, and it passed the first test fail I had, but I have a new test fail that says PR workflow shows code coverage, pull request. If so, how do I resolve this? We're not taking technical questions like that during this call. You can message someone on Slack or post a screenshot of the issue that you're having, and it will be addressed today. And also, let me just mention something. The Palisades Foundation is 100% volunteer based. So everyone you see there has a job and they work during the day. The weekends, they have more time to address things. And this is not true 100% of the time, but people are generally freer on the weekends. And it's if you don't see like a mentor, reaching out to you right away, it's because they probably have something else going on in their life right now. But you should also keep maybe just pressing the mentor, because at the same time, they're probably getting a flood of requests from 20, 30 people at a given time. And it may just be the case that they've forgotten about you because they have to deal with those other 19 people. So if you've messaged a mentor directly and you realize they haven't gotten back to you, don't be afraid to just message them again. Message me, message Peter, and he'll connect you with the relevant person. Yes, Avaton.
So I just want to let everybody know that I too am a volunteer on this as well. So when Dominic says 100% volunteer, he's correct.
Avaton, you had a question?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Good afternoon. It's afternoon over here. So, you missed my question in the chat. One of the mentors stated earlier that for us to, after contributing, we have to create a GitHub gist for all the issues we have created or opened. So my question is it necessary for us to create the GitHub gist, or should we just copy the link of the issue and put it when we are trying to record our contribution?
Yeah, both are fine. That's what Google Summer Code allows as well. So it basically, we just need evidence of the work you've done that's in line with what you're stating. So a gist or an actual link, either one is fine. The gist is probably better, but we'll accept. Actually, how do the proposals look? Do they have to be in gist form, or can you send a PDF or a Word document? Because I'm not aware of the structure of the proposal that has to be sent.
Oh, okay. So it's basically a form that states the date the issue was created, the date the issue was accepted or merged, and also the link and description. That's basically it.
Okay. Yeah. If it's just a link, either doc or the GitHub gist is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions I've missed? You feel free to just Chinelo.
Hi. So it's kind of like a follow-up to Avatan's question. The form basically says that I don't know, it just seems like we can only send like a URL for one contribution. So if we make more than one contribution, how do we add it so that it will be noticed?
So if you create a gist, you can add multiple things on that. It's just essentially like a markdown file of sorts, or just a code. It's just something you can write code on. So if you can put you can put the same links to multiple contributions you've made in that single link. Or if you create a link to a doc, you can also just list multiple contributions there and then just share that link. Just ensure that the link is not private if you're using the doc format.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, Stephen.
Hello. Okay, my question is I don't know yet, but I would like to know if the tasks will be specific to each component. For example, do we have different tasks for admin and different tasks for docs, different tasks for API?
Yeah, definitely. We have different tasks for all those that you mentioned and more. I mean, you can get an idea of the general issues that we have in the issues page for the respective repository, because those are not necessarily specific to a particular program that the Palisades Foundation is doing at a given time, but just general issues that occur within one of the projects that we have. Uh, I have to suggest some changes regarding the design of Talawa docs. Can I address it? And yes, you can address it. Either message a mentor on Slack or just post in the general channel or create an issue. And who has their hand raised? Kayan Derata. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but yeah, you had your hand raised first. You can speak.
She has a message in the chats as well.
Can a Slack message work too instead of an email? Yes, a Slack message or an email, both of those are acceptable. And yeah, Slack or email, either one is fine. Okay, are there any questions I've missed? If so, you can raise your hand and turn on your mic. Or any questions that you want to ask that you haven't asked us yet, you can also just raise your hand and turn on your mic. Or type in the chat if you want. No? Okay. Are there any more questions? When are we expecting the revamp? Today, you're going to get all right. So currently it is 8 a.m. Jamaica time, which means that there are approximately 16 hours left in the day. So you'll get them within the next 16 hours.
I want to talk about the ideas, just in general, as to where we want to be with Talawa. So what we would like to be able to do by the end of the summer is to start thinking about having an alpha product that people can start using. The general application has started to work without crashing. We would like to be able to allow people to use it within their communities, potentially having some of those language changes that I spoke about available as well, and so that we can start thinking about using it in an ad hoc fashion across the world, and then hopefully for next year actually have real users working with it on a day-to-day basis. Please think of ideas, or if you're going to be making modifications to your proposals, to also talk about things that would make the long-term viability of the project a certainty. If we are not a successful open source project, then we won't get funding. And we have been doing this almost for 10 years. And we really would like to do this for another 10. So please keep that in mind. Don't think of the short term just for your own project. Think of the longer term for the community as a whole. Any other questions? All right, I don't hear any more questions. So I think we can come to an end. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time. Oh, we have one more person.
Thank you very much.
Yes, no?
Senders, are you the one who just sent the email about unable to join Slack? If so, I'll shortly reply to you via email with the Slack link.
Well, once again, thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time out to listen to what we have. This video will be put on YouTube very shortly. Sometimes it takes me a little time because there are edits and cuts that need to be done. And that's going to be important. Thanks a lot for being a part of what we're trying to achieve. We will have some additional information that will be presented. We have gone way over time, and I think it would be really great for us just to cut on the discussion at this time. Once again, all the questions that we've gone through from the very beginning, we've had almost an hour of questions, 45 minutes to an hour of questions. Take the time to listen to this on YouTube just to get clarification and I think everything will be working out fine. So thanks a lot, and please remember, we're a community. We want to make sure that everything works out well for everybody. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. And
I think Stephen has a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. As according to the description, this project is used by organizations, different organizations. So, for example, if I have an organization and someone else has an organization, is there a way that my organization and the other organization can share ideas using the platform? For example, if an organization is in another country, or I can only utilize everything within the Talawa, me only with my organization. I cannot share it with another organization outside.
The concept of the organizations is that you will have a Talawa instance running, and that the organizations underneath it would have some sort of community involvement with one another. So it's not so much that they'd be in separate countries, but maybe within the same country, different cities, different neighborhoods. Each organization could potentially be a different entity within the more larger community. So, for example, you may have different types of sports clubs under an organization. So, for example, you may have a national sports club type system, and then there may be different organizations for each individual sport, or you could have each individual neighborhood, etc. So that's the concept of it. People will select which organization that they want to be a part of, and they will be mostly communicating along those channels. The idea of necessarily being able to do shared chats between organizations, we haven't thought about that as a potential opportunity, but it could be. I'm not sure whether we would want to support that at the moment, but that's the general idea of what we want to achieve. If you go to docs.talawa.io, there's just a general description of what we're trying to talk about. We talk about the entire Talawa environment as being a society, and then the organizations underneath underneath that society would be something that we could consider. I think the word society may not be appropriate. I think the word community would be a better one, because people have different thoughts about what a society is, but community I think would be more universal. So that's the general idea about what we're trying to achieve. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.